Hello, Art of Passionate Intimacy. This is Violet, and I'm the founder of The Pleasure Path, and I'm all about empowering women to feel more pleasure and to find and keep lasting and healthy relationships. And tonight I'm going to talk about a topic that is dating after you've gone through a loss. So many times in our lives, we go through things that are really challenging and sometimes unexpected. And that could include the loss of a pet, the loss of a parent or a grandparent, the loss of a teacher, the loss of a friend. There's a lot of times when something in our life changes and catches us off guard. And what do we do about that if we're single or if we're in the dating pool and we feel like we're just not quite ourselves? So one of our members actually asked me to speak about this, and I'm so honored that she reached out and shared this topic with me, shared what she's going through, and why it's important for her to get some help and some resources. So thank you for sharing and for prompting this special Facebook Live. I want to encourage any of you to reach out to me over Facebook, over Messenger, or to put a post into our group. If there's a specific dating topic that you would like to see covered, that you would like to hear more about, or you would like to get some advice on, just message me or post in our group and we can do a Facebook Live about that topic. So when we're talking about dating after loss, there's a few different things that come up, and the first of which is just the very real emotions, grief and anger and despair and questioning and shock and all of those things that happen. And those emotions are not bad. They're not things that you need to hide from your date. They're not things that you need to hide or pretend aren't there within your life. You can still date even after you've gone through a loss, but I feel super protective of you, because anytime that we go through a loss, we're just feeling that much more vulnerable, exposed, open, maybe not with our same level of confidence that we might normally have, because for good reason, we're grieving. So many of my clients have lost a grandparent or a parent or even a sibling or a pet, within just months of starting to work with me, sometimes within just a week or two, or they might have a parent who's in the hospital and who's sick. And so it does create a different context for going into the dating scene and for looking for love when we're going through a loss that's significant to us. So the first thing to do is really just to honor your emotions and honor where you're at and not feel like you have to pretend or make everything okay or shove that down. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to divulge everything to a date, because again, I feel protective of you and I want to make sure that that person is emotionally attuned to you and can support you and give you love and listen to you and provide that really strong safety net that you would need and want at this time. But I want you to honor your emotions and all that's coming up so that you can be in a place of authenticity, and that will shine through when you're with a romantic partner. They'll be able to see your heart and feel everything that you're going through. But the second thing that's really important is to have additional support systems. So it's not just your date or someone that you recently started dating. It's also your friends, your church, your family, your colleagues, your therapist, a support group, this group, other people in your life who can help provide emotional support so that you don't feel like you have to put all of that desire for attention or all of that need to be held on just one person, someone that you've recently started dating or someone that's brand new. The second thing, or the third thing to consider after really honoring your emotions and making sure that you have support in many different places, is to recognize the impact of what this means for your future with your loved one. So when we have something as significant as the loss of a parent, for instance, like this person who messaged me was sharing, when we lose someone like that in our life, it can make us think differently about getting married, and now maybe we don't have someone to walk us down the aisle, or now maybe our Christmas looks different, our traditions look different, our holidays look different when we have someone that's transitioned in our life. And so giving yourself the time to recreate a relationship vision for yourself that honors this change. And it might sound like a bit of a sad process, but one way you can think about it is, how would I like to honor this person in the significant experiences in my life? So in my wedding, if my dad can't be there, how would I like to honor him? What's something really cool that I could do to recognize him and make him part of the ceremony? If my dog isn't going to be there at Christmas, what can I do to remind me of my dog? Can I have an ornament? Can I get a little doggy stocking? Maybe I'll have a new dog at that point. I don't know. But if we have a loss in our life, it's an important opportunity to rewrite the rituals that we have in our lives and that we've been looking forward to having with our partner, in a way that really honors the person that's passed and that's moved on. And if that feels too tender, if that feels too sensitive, if the loss was really new, then just do that later. You can do that with a partner, you can do that with a friend, you can wait 6 months or a year to do that. But I just want to offer that as a way to rewrite a new vision and a new way to still have that person be part of your life as you move forward towards a relationship. And then, of course, if things come up as you're doing that, journal and be tender and be kind and compassionate with yourself, because you're envisioning a new future that maybe you didn't think you would have to envision. And so that can feel new, that can feel fresh, that can feel different. The other thing that might come up as you think about dating after going through a loss is, what do I share with someone? Like, what do I tell a date if I recently was going through a grieving process? And of course, it depends on the level of grief, and it depends on the type of loss and the nature of loss. Some of the women I work with, they've loved being back and dating because it gives them something to do, it gives them something to take their mind off of something, and it gives them just a chance to be social and get out and not just be stuck in the sadness. Some women have decided that they need a month or 2 or 3 in order to heal before they're around other people who don't know them, because being around strangers just feels overwhelming. So honor your decision, whether you want to start dating or whether you want to continue dating if you're already dating. If you're seeing someone, that's something that I'll talk about in a few minutes. But it's really your choice about whether or not you want to date and how much you want to share. So it's very normal that in the first few dates, someone might ask about your family. And if you've recently lost a family member, you might want to prepare yourself, like, how am I going to talk about this? Is it even something that I want to go into? Or do I just want to say, I've recently gone through a loss and it's too much for me to talk about right now, but I really appreciate that you asked, and I'd rather just talk about it later. Like, be okay with setting a healthy boundary, because you don't have to be an open book all the time. When we talk so much about being in our feminine and being open, and to Brene Brown's stuff about being vulnerable, there's a beauty in being vulnerable, but there's also beauty in really taking care of yourself and not sharing beyond what you feel comfortable, and not sharing beyond what you know the other person can hold emotional space for you with. So if you do choose to go on a date and you're going through a grieving process, and if they do ask about family, you don't have to answer, you don't have to share everything that's going on. You can just say, I've recently gone through a loss and it's too much for me to talk about, but I'd love to share more in the future. And just be okay with that. If you feel comfortable with the person, you can of course explain more, but just remember that this person is most likely a stranger, someone that you don't know, and it doesn't mean that they can't emotionally support you. I just wouldn't want you to have expectations that they should show up in a certain way when you don't really know them, and it can be a lot to know how to navigate, how to support someone through something like this, especially if they haven't gone through it themselves. So I just want to throw that out there, that be mindful that your date might not know how to support you through this, but it doesn't mean that they don't care. And you'll learn a lot about someone if you express something like this, saying, it's something that I went through that's a loss recently and I don't want to talk about it, but I'd like to talk about it further. If your date says, wow, I'm so sorry, I'm totally here whenever you're ready, like, that already tells you a lot about that person's character. Or if they say something like, oh, well, why don't you want to talk about it? Or something that's rude or emotionally not attuned, then that tells you a lot about their character as well. So even when we're setting a boundary, we're learning a lot about ourselves and we're learning a lot about the other person. Can they respect our boundary? Can they still be there with care and compassion? Or do they try to push against our boundary? Or do they completely shut down and disengage from the conversation? So even when we have challenging things going on in our lives, we can bring them into the dating experience in a healthy, bounded vulnerability way and see how the other person responds, so we get to know them and ourselves as we move through the spaces in our life that might be challenging. Now, if you decide that you want to be dating after a loss and you're having a hard time going on these dates and not feeling overly emotional, then that's totally normal. It's a lot to put yourself out there on a new date and to meet someone new, let alone to do that when you're going through a phase in your life or a time in your life where there's been grief and there's been loss. So there's no pressure to put yourself out there, and just recognize that it is an extra layer that you will navigate yourself through. And what I mean by that is, make sure you have really good self-care tools and rituals. So if you're dating after you've gone through a loss, it's even more important to, have a cozy sweater when you get home, or a nice blanket to come into, to allow yourself to grieve and cry, to do some heart-centered practices, to light a candle to honor the person that you've lost. So having all these little rituals before and after your date is a great idea for any date because it really helps you bring back into your body and back into the feminine. But it's a really good idea if you've gone through any sort of loss and you're looking for some more grounding and some more support for yourself as you navigate these spaces. Now, there's also this situation where you just started dating someone recently and you've gone through a loss. And that's different, of course, than dating someone new or already being in a long-term committed relationship. So if you're in that situation where you've been dating someone and you go through something, grief can be an interesting place to be, and we all grieve in different ways. And so if you're dating someone and it's fairly new, it'd be really good for you to touch base with yourself. Like, what am I wanting from this person? Do I need extra touch? Do I need them to check in on me more often? When I had to put my dog down, I was dating a guy at the time who texted me like 5 times or 10 times a day after that, after I lost my dog, after I had to put him down. And I loved it. Like, it was not overload at all. He could have texted me 30 times a day and I would have said more because I just really appreciated human connection at that point. You might realize that you actually need space. You need time to yourself. You don't really want to talk about things. You don't really want to interact. So knowing what you need from your relatively new like partner or date can be really helpful. So you can express to them, hey, here's what I'm going through. Here's what I would love from you, or here's what would make me feel really special or really seen. Or maybe I just need a safe space where I can relax and cry and be myself. And can we order in pizza or watch movies at your place? Like, feel free to ask for what it is that you need so the person knows better how to support you and your own unique temperament and makeup and proclivities for when you're going through something like a loss. The other thing that's important to remember if you're going through a loss and you've been dating someone for a little while is that you will be in a different emotional state, and that's okay. And so again, it's really important for your own self-care and for honoring your emotions and to not put too much expectation on your new person that you've been dating. And what I mean by that is oftentimes when we lose someone, it creates a vacuum. So for me, when I lost my dog, it created a vacuum of a companion and someone to touch and cuddle and nurture and love on. And I found myself doing that more with my ex-boyfriend after I had put my dog down. Like, not that I was treating him like a dog, but I had this deep need to like nurture and coddle and like soothe another creature when I probably just needed that myself because of what I was going through. So sometimes when we lose like a dad or a father figure, then all of a sudden we can feel this vacuum of the masculine, like, oh, like, where's the masculine in my life? And we might start expecting the other men in our life to play that sort of father role subconsciously. So just notice if you're starting to have different expectations of your partner. Can you clear up what it is that you want from them and how you would feel really loved and supported? Can you recognize if you're starting to fill that vacuum from that pet or that person with someone else in your life and maybe those expectations are not appropriate at that point in the relationship? And then can you just take really good self-care of yourself so that you can start to fill in those spaces, not just for yourself, but also for honoring the other person or the pet that you've lost. So I don't have any hard and fast rules for dating after loss. I think it varies per the person. But just to recap, the number one thing is to pay attention to your feelings and honor your feelings, to create a new vision of your partnership and a new vision of those rituals, whether it's Christmas or your marriage or vacation trips you used to take, like rewriting those stories in a way that still honors the person that you've lost. How can they be a part of your Christmas? How can they be a part of you getting married? How can they be a part of these new memories that you're creating? And maybe part of it is planting a tree or doing these other remembrance activities. And maybe you can do that with your current and or future partner. And the other thing that's really important is not to rush into dating too quickly, but also not to hold yourself up from the opportunity for love. And if you are on a date and you feel like it's a lot and you don't want to get into it, you don't have to. You can set that healthy boundary and learn a lot about yourself and the other person in the process. And then the last piece of it is if you are dating someone and you've been dating for a few weeks, just get really clear on what you need from them. Express those needs to them. Give them an opportunity to meet those needs and make sure you're not putting expectations on them that are really just filling the space for the person that used to be there. So I'm really grateful for you watching and listening to this. If you have any questions or any comments, please put them in and I'll be happy to address them later. You can also watch the replay and let me know any questions as you do that, and I'll be happy to chime in. If you've gone through this experience, like I said, I have a lot of clients that have gone through this, and I will say that one of the gifts is that we really wake up to the priorities in our life. So when we lose someone or a pet that's really important to us, it reminds us of the importance of love and the importance of connection, and the importance of someone to hold our hand when we're going through a difficult time, and the importance of having someone there when we're taking our last breath. And so I want that for myself, and I want that for all of us, is the opportunity to experience the depth of human love, because to me that's one of the most just precious experiences on the earth, and why we're here. And so if you are in this time of loss, also allow it to open your heart in a way to your true priorities. And if you want someone to talk to about this, about dating during a time of loss, we always have our breakthrough sessions, which are free, with me or one of the coaches on our team. And we can help you get really clear on what's going on, what this means for your dating life, and where it is that you'd like to go next. It just depends on where you're at in your process, but I encourage you to reach out so we can find ways to support you. And I'm sending you lots of love, and thank you again for tuning in. We will be here next week as well, doing a special Facebook Live on Monday with an amazing woman named Amy Jo, who's just fantastic. She's currently in our program, and she actually went through a loss about a year ago. 1 year ago, I think she lost someone, and I'm not going to disclose who because I don't want to invade on her privacy. But we're going to have a beautiful Facebook Live with her on Monday, and then we'll have another Facebook Live on Wednesday where I'll be talking about another great and special topic. So if you have anything on your mind or heart that you would like to be addressed, of course, just type it in or send me a message. So sending you lots of love and lots of healing energy. There on Facebook Live, the heart always shows up differently. Lots of love, lots of healing energy, and may you have a beautiful rest of your week. Mwah.